How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be going over your most frequently asked questions about Shadow Mewtwo and Pokemon Go. Now with that being said, as always, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, if you do find it helpful, please make sure to smash that like button down below. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, we got a lot of questions to run through, so let's just jump straight into it. So the first question I have here is going to be, why am I still getting Shadow Latios and not Shadow Mewtwo? The answer to that is because Shadow Mewtwo is not in the game yet. It will become available on November 14th at 12 AM your local time. The next question asks, is Shadow Mewtwo still going to be available after the Team Go Rocket takeover? The answer is yes. It will be here for the foreseeable future until Niantic decides to rotate it out. I do want to mention though that the last date to get access to the special research quest for Shadow Mewtwo is going to be on December 1st, but once you have it, you can finish it anytime. I also want to mention that if you do have additional Super Rocket Radars, it's not directly related to the special research quest, so just know that whenever you go to battle Giovanni, it will be Shadow Mewtwo, and you don't actually have to beat the questline in order to get Shadow Mewtwo. That just awards you the Super Rocket Radar. Does Weather Boost affect the IVs or increase your chances of getting a better IV Shadow Mewtwo? So unfortunately, the Weather Boost does not affect the IVs of your Shadow Mewtwo because the IV floor of a Shadow Legendary Pokemon is already set at base 6. So basically what that means is that 666, the number of the beast, I'm just kidding, 666 is going to be the base spread for your IVs in terms of Shadow Legendary Pokemon. You can only go up from there. Can Giovanni appear from rocket balloons? Yes, but keep in mind that if you do beat him and you exit out of the screen and the rocket balloon flies away, you will not get your Super Rocket Radar back. So if you do decide to challenge him, make sure that you're able to beat him and you do catch the Shadow Legendary, which in this case would be Shadow Mewtwo, because if you back out for whatever reason or if you get glitched out of the encounter screen, you won't be able to get your Shadow Mewtwo and you essentially lose a Super Rocket Radar, which would honestly be devastating. So in my opinion, if you really want to play it safe, just track him down from normal Pokestops as long as you have the Super Rocket Radar enabled, and you'll be pretty much good to go. I guess it's also worth noting as well that you can unequip your Super Rocket Radar. Some people don't actually realize how to do this. Just go to your inventory and then tap on the Super Rocket Radar and this will actually unequip it. So if you don't want to encounter Giovanni, you can just do that. What should I save my other Super Rocket Radars for? So while Shadow Mewtwo is definitely among the best Pokemon in Pokemon Go, there's still plenty of other Shadow Legendary Pokemon that haven't been released in the game. In terms of the rotation so far, we've gone through Generation 1 and Generation 2, and we've gotten 2 of the Generation 3 Legendary Pokemon. So it stands to reason that the next in line would be Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza, if they decide to follow the pattern. Of course, there are other Shadow Legendary Pokemon, like for example Reshiram and Zekrom, that are going to be insanely good in their Shadow forms, but they're from Generation 5, so it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting those for at least a few years. Is there a way to guarantee a 100% IV Shadow Mewtwo? Unfortunately, there is not at the moment. There are things called bottle caps in the main series games that will actually boost your IVs of your Pokemon, but those aren't in Pokemon Go yet. The next question here is a pretty common one that I've been getting. What are the odds to catch Shadow Mewtwo and can it run away? So it's really good because all Shadow Legendary Pokemon have a 100% catch rate and will not run away as long as your ball makes contact. However, if you do manage to hit the speed limit from traveling, like let's say for example you encounter Giovanni and then you're in the encounter screen for Shadow Mewtwo and you're driving away, if you're driving too fast or if you're just going at too fast of a speed, this can trigger an automatic breakout, which will disregard the intended catch rate, which in this case would be 100%. So wherever you decide to catch your Shadow Mewtwo, just make sure that you catch it in that same area and you should be good. The next question here is kind of a loaded one, so they ask, how do you stack Super Rocket Radars? So I have a full explanation in my top 30 best Shadow Pokemon to power up video, which I'd recommend checking out because, you know, it's definitely a very detailed explanation. But to put it in simple terms just for this video, you essentially just want to hold onto your Super Rocket Radar from the current Team Go Rocket Special Research Quest. In this case, that would be Latios. And you don't beat Giovanni. You get to step 5 out of 6, but you don't beat Giovanni. You hold onto your Super Rocket Radar, then wait until the new Shadow Legendary Pokemon comes into rotation, which would be Mewtwo in this scenario, and then you use it, and you essentially just repeat the process from there. By doing this, you are sacrificing your opportunity for one Shadow Legendary, which would be Latios, but you're instead trading it for the chance to get 2 of the next Shadow Legendary, which in this case would be Shadow Mewtwo. or 1, depending on if you want to actually carry over the Super Rocket Radar from the Shadow Mewtwo questline to the next Shadow Legendary, which is definitely an alternative if you guys do want to go for that. I did talk about how many Shadow Mewtwo you ultimately want in my previous video, so if you want a more detailed explanation on that, make sure to check that video out. Can you trade Shadow Mewtwo? No, you cannot trade Shadow Pokemon in general. The next question is one I got asked quite frequently, so I want to go over this one in a bit more detail, and they ask, do you need to complete the Shadow Latios quest first? So the answer here is no, you can wait until the 14th and then catch Shadow Mewtwo when it becomes available. When you beat Giovanni and you catch Shadow Mewtwo, this will complete your Shadow Latios quest, and then your Shadow Mewtwo quest will unlock the next day at 12 AM your local time. This is pretty much how it's worked for me in the past when I've done it. Sometimes the quest will also appear directly after you complete the previous one as well. So while this can happen sometimes, if it doesn't appear immediately, just wait until the next day and you should see it in your special research tab. My Pokemon suck, can I beat Giovanni? Yes. So there are some strategies you can use to beat Giovanni, and I'm going to put together a quick video with a few teams after the 14th that go over how you can actually take advantage of it and beat Giovanni. And I will make sure to include some budget-friendly options for newer players, because I know this can be kind of difficult. Will any non-Mega Pokemon outclass Shadow Mewtwo in the future? So no, Shadow Mewtwo will be the best Psychic-type attacker in the game unless a better Legendary comes along in a future Pokemon generation. But as of right now, at least among the 8 available generations that we have in game, soon to be 9, there is no other Pokemon in terms of the Psychic-type category that is going to be better than Shadow Mewtwo. What if I have a different Team Go Rocket special research quest and not the Shadow Latios quest? So this is definitely possible, especially for returning players, and what this essentially means is that you won't be able to get the Shadow Latios quest because that time window has already expired. It expired on September 1st, but all you really need to do here is just get to step 5 out of 6 where you gotta beat Giovanni. Then once Mewtwo comes into rotation, beat him, complete your Team Go Rocket special research quest, and then the following day you should unlock the new one for Shadow Mewtwo. This is kind of similar to the question we had a little bit earlier, so hopefully that does make sense. If it doesn't, feel free to comment down below and I can explain it further. Oh, the next question is a loaded one. So do you need good IVs on your Shadow Mewtwo? I got so many comments about this. So the answer is no, you do not. While IVs do help a Pokemon, it's important to understand the correct order of importance. And that goes base stats, Shadow Boost, and then IVs. So even with bad IVs, this Pokemon is better than everything else because of the first 2 factors. Now while we're on this subject, I also want to touch on Pokemon levels for newer players who are watching this, as this is also going to affect the overall power potential of any Pokemon. So first of all, the level of a Pokemon can be quickly determined by looking at the Stardust required to power it up. I like to use the baselines of level 20, level 25, level 30, and then level 35. Level 20 is typically the Pokemon that you get from Legendary Raids. If it's weather boosted, it's level 25. Level 30 is 90% of the Pokemon's maximum potential when looking at it at a level 40 perspective. And then when it comes down to level 50, I like to just think of that as over-leveling, since you kind of need a separate resource entirely to power them up. To try and put this in simple terms, after you power up a Pokemon past level 30, it costs double the amount of resources, and the power-ups also get cut down in half. So in terms of overall power potential, yes, it is going to make a difference, but the main objective should be getting your Pokemon to level 30 first, and then deciding from there if you want to continue powering them up. So I really wanted to touch on this aspect, mainly because I had a few comments going over that they were worried that they didn't have enough resources to max out 3 Shadow Mewtwo. You don't have to max out 3 Shadow Mewtwo. You don't even have to max out 1 Shadow Mewtwo. You could get them all to level 30 and that would be totally fine. And then if you want to power them up from there, level 35, level 40, you can gradually do it. Anyways though, going back to the main question about IVs, if we compare regular Mewtwo versus Shadow Mewtwo, we can see the significant difference here and why the base stats plus the Shadow Boost are the most important factor. So running Confusion plus Psystrike, Shadow Mewtwo is about 5,000 points higher than regular Mewtwo. So even with the worst IV spread possible, it may be slightly less better than this, but it's not going to make it that much worse in comparison to a normal Mewtwo. There's no comparison whatsoever, guys. A 0% IV Shadow Mewtwo is still going to be miles better than 100% IV regular Mewtwo. So basically, to sum things up here, my point is that even if you don't get a great IV spread on your Shadow Mewtwo, it's still going to be worth powering up. And I got quite a few comments about people basing their Super Rocket Radar usage on the IV spreads alone. So I felt that it was kind of important to outline this because, again, you don't need to go through all of your Super Rocket Radars trying to get a good IV spread and then not power up your other Shadow Mewtwo. each of those Shadow Mewtwo are going to be amazing. Even if they get the lowest IV spread possible, they are going to be one of the best Pokemon in the game, regardless of IVs, guys. So hopefully that does make sense. If I have to outline this further, I totally can, but I think you guys get the point. Okay, the next question asks, can you get a shiny Shadow Mewtwo? So unfortunately, this is not available in-game yet, and I don't believe that they're going to be adding shiny Shadow Legendary Pokemon in-game anytime soon. I mean, it's been years and we haven't even gotten one, so if they start that whole chain, man, Pokemon Go is going to go on for like the next 20 years, and I honestly don't even know if people are going to be playing this game that long out, but we'll see what happens, right? Alright, this second to last question here is, should I purify my Shadow Mewtwo? For the love of God, please, please do not ever purify your Shadow Mewtwo. I've already explained this plenty of times, but if I have to say it again, Shadow Mewtwo, even with the worst IV spread possible, is going to be better. Even like Mega Mewtwo in the future, you don't have to purify your Shadow Mewtwo in order to get Mega Mewtwo in the future. Like, Mewtwo is going to come back in raids at some point. You can raid that Mewtwo, you can lucky trade that Mewtwo, you can get better IVs, hopefully the Hundo, and if not, a lucky Mewtwo is going to be half the Stardust to power it up, so yeah, you can use that Mewtwo for your Mega, but you want to have Shadow Mewtwo and your other spots available, at least like your other 2 or 3 spots in your team of 6. At least that's what I'm going for. So yeah, please, for the love of God, do not purify your Mewtwo, do not purify most of your Shadow Pokemon for that matter, but just specifically on Mewtwo. There is absolutely no reason to do this. The final question is, why can't I TM Frustration away on my Shadow Mewtwo? So I know I'm going to get this question asked plenty of times after the Team Go Rocket event finishes, and the way that it's coded is that you could only TM Frustration away during these specific events, so they typically happen every 3 to 4 months, you know, in the form of a Team Go Rocket takeover, and then you can TM Frustration away on your Shadow Pokemon. But if you don't manage to do it during that time, then you won't be able to. There is a small workaround to this if you do want to give it a secondary charge move. You can do that. I mean, honestly, I think for most of us, we're probably going to do that anyways on our Shadow Mewtwo just to really maximize its potential there. So you can do that, and then you can use an Elite TM to get Psy Strike. You're still going to have Frustration in that first spot, but, you know, you can still at least use it if you want to do that. Or you can just wait a few months, then you can TM Frustration away, not have to spend the additional Stardust if you don't want to get the second move, and go from there. But either way, I think you can make it work, and you know, if you're just curious why you can't use charge TMs to get rid of Frustration, this is pretty much the answer. But with that last question, that pretty much covers everything I had to go over here. These are all the questions you guys asked me on my last video, and just questions I do get kind of often, so hopefully all of that does make sense. If you have any additional questions, I'll do my best to respond to you guys in the comment section down below. But that's basically everything I got for you guys in this one. If you want some more additional tips and tricks, check out these videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.